Hi, hello everyone. So this is CIS 5370 and this is my demonstration of my exploits, and I will be doing the SQL injection exploit. Okay, so first off, what is the SQL injection exploit? So most websites, whether it be e-commerce, just information retrieval, have databases connected to them. And databases are queried and used um, with the SQL commands, right? And these are commands such as retrieval, updates, edits, deletion, your basic CRUD commands. Now, in entering information on these websites through the use of forms, etc., they perform some SQL query in the background that, queries the database in what they're doing. Now, what an SQL injection exploit is using these forms or vulnerabilities in the front end of the website to run SQL commands or queries that the user should not have access to, which can lead to unauthorized editing of the database in ways that the user is not authorized to, dropping tables, which is deleting data, or destroying the entire database, or for more nefarious means such as stealing of personal information for users, such as passwords, credit card information, etc. Now, SQL injection exploits have been around since the beginning of the web and the use of SQL databases for storing and retrieval of information. So, what this translates to is, for example, like this on W3 schools, they speak about SQL injection. This user form where the user is entering their user ID, and then they're also entering the drop table suppliers. This is an SQL command that could end up dropping the table suppliers and destroy our database. Now, how does this look like from the front end? So, in websites where this vulnerability occurs, is in cases where the website is using the PHP um, setup to get and retrieve information, and the get parameter of the website is vulnerable. So, for example, this would be our get parameter, and we can change it to star, and we'd be able to demonstrate that there's a likely vulnerability in the get command here on this website, meaning that we can fill this section here with SQL code, and it will run or query, right? So how are we going to demonstrate this? First off, I'll be using two important references for demonstration. The Geeks for Geeks website on using SM test SQL injection, and W3 Schools SQL injection. And on this first website here, it gives us these pre-built vulnerable websites that we're going to go ahead and use. So in Kali Linux, I have the SQL map tool, which allows us to demonstrate this vulnerability. It's already pre-installed. So what we're going to do, taking our test website that we know is here, that has the get command vulnerability. And I've already tested this, and my commands are already in here. We're going to go ahead and first get query all the information about the current databases, which we should be able to do if we're just, entering information. But because that get command is vulnerable and using SMT SQL map, we could go ahead and grab all the database information. So this is our website. This is our command for SQL map. It's gonna bring back our database information. Okay, so let's see what happened there. SQL map. All right, let's go ahead and double check why I'm getting this error. Okay, so it was the SQL SMTP update error, but we did have our information come back. As we can see here, is our vulnerable website has two available databases, our occurred and our information schema. Now, what we're going to do, since we now see that we have access to our databases and we know that our get vulnerability is present, let's go ahead and find all the tables present in our database, in our first database. Okay, so let's get accurate, the accurate table, and go ahead and get. And here we have we have 8 tables in this database. Right? We have artists, cards, featured, guestbook, pictures, etc. So now, what we're doing here, by the way, this is the SQL exploit. In that get command, we are using SQL map to force SQL injection in, and we're querying data that we shouldn't see, we don't have access to. I shouldn't be able to see the tables for this database unless I'm the admin or the designer of this. So let's go ahead and get all the columns for the artist table. And here we have 3 columns for our artist table: the description, the name, and the artist ID. Okay? Now, we're going to do what most attackers do if they're querying some database and we're going to grab all the information. And keep in mind, this is from that table. And keep in mind on that table on columns. Now, keep in mind, this information, this is just demonstration. Like, so we're using, this case-to-case reference, and they have like basic table setup with some information. What we're using here is going to dump the information now. And if this was passwords or people's credit card information or just personal information, they'd be able to have access to it. So here we go, and this is our command, our artist table and columns, and we're going to head and dump the information. And as you can see, for the A name column, we have this information that we've dumped out. And this is a basic demonstration of SQL injection exploit in action. Okay, so how can we go ahead and prevent this? So in preventing SQL injection, it is very easily prevented using prepared statements, which basically sanitize our inputs. So, for example, when we have these forms, for example, right here, like these forms, what we would do, we'd have prepared statements attached to these forms that run when the user enters some information. So this section here, or all of this, would be sanitized in that it's injected into the prepared statement as just data or information, and then that prepared SQL statement runs. So the actual input being placed in this form isn't executable, or it doesn't come across to the system as executable commands. This is prepared statements that sanitize the input. So in the sanitized input, this entire statement would be the user ID. It won't recognize this as malicious code. It will be sanitized within the prepared statement, and that would be entered as the information instead of the information in this being run as the complete statement. The information is in a prepared statement and it's sanitized. This is the most easiest and straightforward way of preventing SQL injections and preventing the exploit. So that's it for my demonstration on this SQL exploit. If you are curious to go ahead, to try this on your own, you can go ahead and check these 2 references, which allows you to follow the steps of both with the testing website and just how it is and what it works. And if you'd like to go deeper into figuring out SQL injection, Google does have a tool that allows you to search. It's called Google Dorking, which scans uh, websites for the SQL injection vulnerabilities, and using the same commands on SQL map, you can query these databases and try to grab or dump information for them. Because since there are websites out there and databases that haven't been set up correctly to sanitize the information. So, thank you for your time on this matter. I have been Vishnu Poonai, and this was my demonstration on SQL injection exploits. Thank you.